Welcome back to my channel, my beauties and my angels. I'm so glad that you guys are here, and I'm really excited about this week's episode because we're going to be talking about exactly what materials and finishes that designers use regularly that are timeless. This is a question I absolutely love because it goes to the heart of good design, and you guys are getting so sophisticated, and these are the questions that are coming up. So it's not just about looking nice for a season, but it's about really being elegant, grounded, and beautiful year after year after year. So today I'm going to break down 7 finishes that never go out of style, from metals to textiles to wood flooring, and I'll explain exactly why designers keep coming back to them. And by the end, you'll know how to invest in the finishes that are going to be not only long lasting, but that are going to age like fine wine instead of a trendy sort of momentary fleeting trend. So as many of you know, I spend my days, literally days and nights, specifying materials for new construction, for remodels, for renovations, for luxury interiors. Every week I am bombarded. Every week I see clients that are tempted by the latest fad, sort of, glossy acrylic cabinets or neon grout or metallic everything. And although it's really fun for a moment, you really tire of them quickly. And while trends have, their moment, as we've seen, these 7 finishes are real design foundations. And they're ones that you'll still love in 10, 20, or even 50 years. I mean, look at my house, guys. I built this house from the ground up. Well, you can't look. All you see is what you see here. I built my house from the ground up. And 15 years ago, I started planning this house. And it took about 5 years between the architectural, the site work, and the build. So literally 15 years ago, I put in white oak herringbone floors. And what is happening at the moment? White oak herringbone floors. But then what I did was I stained them in the moment. I stained them gray. I knew that was a fleeting trend, but I had to have it. And then 3 years ago, I sanded them, and then I put a clear coat on them. So these are things that not only do I preach, but I live by. And I have had the experience, which is nice to have an interior designer that's old, such as myself, or older, shall we say, because we have seen it all, and we have the ability to be able to project as to what's going to happen in the future. And we have the longevity of being in the industry for a long time. So this is why this episode is especially important for those of us who are renovating right now or remodeling or thinking about making some changes. Now, some of these might surprise you. For example, I should also mention that my foyer floors are the Harlequin pattern black and white checkered floor. What are you guys seeing right now? Checkered floors. But these are also in Versailles or at the Louvre. So again, things that are done well with classic nature and foundation are going to last longer. So, for example, one of these finishes has also been around since ancient times and is still just as luxurious today. Another is something so understated that you might overlook it, but it silently elevates every space it touches. So you're going to want to stay till the very end. I'm always keeping the best for last. And we're going to count from 1 to 7. And by the way, I'd love to hear which of these you already have at home, like I just shared, some of my true, trusted and true, and which ones you're thinking about doing. Let's go, guys. I'm excited. Number 1, unlacquered brass or bronze. Why is that timeless? Well, because brass and bronze have been around for centuries. And here's why designers keep coming back to them. The beauty of these finishes, these metals, are the fact that they have their own evolution. So unlike chrome or polished nickel, which by the way are beautiful, unlacquered brass develops a warm and natural patina over time. And you could always polish it back to its former glory if you get sick of the patina, which is really nice. And or you can leave them and create a sense of history and authenticity in a space. I wish that my handles were unlacquered brass. I chose a lacquered finish at the time, but guess what? I can unlacquer them with some kind of chemical process. But the point is that it's literally been used in luxury homes and historic estates for hundreds of years. Every mark, smudge, or subtle darkening adds the character instead of looking worn. It really is just looks beautifully patinaed. And its warmth balances the cooler materials like marble, concrete, and glass, creating a very sophisticated sort of juxtaposition and harmony. I especially love using it for faucets, lighting, cabinet hardware, stair rails. You know, the options are endless, even towel racks, toilet paper holders. I could go on and on. And combining it with wood and stone is even more delicious. And it keeps the space grounded and human scaled. So don't over clean them. I say let them age naturally. Even spots like water spots and fingerprints make it look lived in and not cheap, actually. Also, brass and bronze have this quiet confidence. They're luxurious without screaming. And the patina tells a story of a home that's lived in rather than a polished brass that screams gold and nouveau riche. I certainly love having things that have a patina. Okay, now that we have our hardwares and fixtures sorted out, let's look at fabrics that truly stand the test of time. But before I get into that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button because it makes a huge difference for this channel. Everybody who worked on this channel keeps telling me, Nina, tell your followers, please, please, please. They are begging me in the background to please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell if you guys want to get alerted for all upcoming episodes. So what are timeless fabrics and upholstery? There are many of them, but definitively I would argue that linen and cotton are some of the most historically used and timeless fabrics. So natural fabrics like linen and cotton are staples for a reason. Their longevity isn't just physical, it's aesthetic. So there are some really great cotton and linens that are out these days that are also performance fabrics. And if you choose to use a fabric that is not necessarily linen but looks like linen, I'm okay with that because they have that performance ability to them. And they essentially, linen and cotton age very gracefully. So unlike synthetics that sort of pill or fade, but there are some really good options and alternatives that you guys can use as long as you're getting that look. That's what's important. And it is great for curtains especially, and very, very refined, easy to clean, and it just looks very minimalist and soft in any home. Truly. Now for sofas and chairs, I would pick a tight weave for durability. And for pillows, let the texture play. A smooth linen pillow next to a nubby cotton creates subtle contrast. And layering is key. So natural fibers in neutral tones create visual richness without relying on pattern. So light neutral shades are my favorite. As you can see, they don't get tiring and they gain character rather than show wear, in my opinion. And it's certainly a great, great way to bring in beauty into your home. You can certainly update your rugs. By the way, speaking of rugs, did I mention that I have now designed 2 collections at Ruggable? And I'm going to link them in the description section. We're going to pop some of them in here because this is a really great example of why timeless rugs are going to also have that long-term effect in your home. The designs that I create are pretty much timeless. There's nothing fast forward about them. There's nothing trendy about them. They're just good, earth-loving, ethereal, beautiful designs. And so I love sharing them with you. I love seeing them in your home. So many of you throw my rugs in your homes and you send them to me. And it's just like, I just can't believe that I'm a part of your home. And I'm there as a reminder to remember to live beautifully. So now that we have the rugs down and our fabrics down, let's talk about the next very important factor, which is number 3, and that is how and what to paint your walls. So that is a very important consideration in design. One of the first things a contractor will ask you, and one of the first things that your designer will ask you or suggest is your paint color. So a single beige wall is safe, but layering warm neutrals using subtly different tones on walls, trims, and ceilings creates dimension that feels intentional and luxurious. I love color drenching. I think it is also very, very timeless, and it complements the entire room and doesn't chop up a room. So if you have your ceilings, your walls, your baseboards all in the same color, then you don't see chopped up layers, but you see a homogeneous room. And I find that to be most effective. And I also like to take neutrals from one room to the next. Not every room should be the same color. Certainly bedrooms, your entirety of your space that is common space, your, I would say, public spaces should most likely be all the same color. You don't want too choppiness, but you could certainly transition into other colors, and I love doing that. So warm neutrals complement nearly every material. They will complement your stone, your wood, your metal, and it will work in all lighting conditions. Now I'm going to give you guys a bonus. Every once in a while, I do a deep dive in colors. And every once in a while, I will get a color suggested to me by a client that I'm working with because they themselves have tested 500 different colors. And we come up with the magic color. And I'm going to throw one in here because you guys deserve to get all of my knowledge. And if you're thinking about painting your house, there's a new color that a client actually brought to my attention. And I've already, and I shout out to her, and I've already used this in one of my bedrooms. I loved it so much. It's called Benjamin Moore Baby Fawn. We're going to pop Baby Fawn in here. And you're going to see how I use Baby Fawn. And I love this color. So this client that I have, she literally tested 500 colors. She told me, I said, are you open to any other colors? And she said, no. And I said, why? And she said, because I've literally tested 500 and I love it. And then she showed me photos of where she had tested it because this was a Zoom client. And I was equally excited about it and had to use it myself. So I've seen it live and I've seen it in photo and it's great. All right, so unlike cool grays or trendy pastels, warm neutrals feel very cozy and inviting without really overwhelming your space. Now, a lot of you ask not only about color, but 99.9% of you are confused about which kind of finish to use for your paints. So I'm going to once and for all break this down for you. Get a screenshot. It's going to be written on your screen. Everyone should memorize this. Tattoo it on your arm. If there's ever going to be a tattoo on my hand, other than my children's names and my dog, it's going to be what finish your paints should be and what creams I put on my face, because I feel like it's the questions I get asked most. So if somebody says, what creams are you using? Left hand tattoo. What finish should I use for my paint? Right hand tattoo. How about that? Okay, so for your walls, you're going to want to use an eggshell. Huge shout out, not even a shout out, huge declaration I'd like to make is that Farrow & Ball has I just received this email, and they have just released a matte eggshell. I don't know how they did it. They did, and we love Farrow & Ball. I'm obsessed with their colors. And they just came out with the most delicious formula where you can use eggshell for your walls that are matte. I love a matte wall, but I love to be able to clean it because I am practical. And I know people have dirty fingers and they're always touching the walls. I don't know why people touch walls, why people touch other people's walls, but they do. And if you have an eggshell finish, all you have to do is take a wet rag and clean it. The idea of using those sponges from Magic Eraser, they don't work. Do not use Magic Eraser. A lot of you are going to give me a lot of hate in the comments. The reason they don't work is because what you're doing is you're removing the paint by adding white. And unless you have white walls, it's really not going to work. So Magic Eraser has not worked for me at all. To summarize, the eggshell finish is ideal. If you don't use Farrow & Ball and use a different company such as Benjamin Moore, it's perfectly fine to use eggshell because it pretty much dries flat. For your ceilings, you always want to do a flat ceiling because any imperfection in the ceiling will show if you have any shine. And then for your baseboards and your doors, you want to do a satin finish. It has just a very light sheen to it and looks amazing. So layered neutrals are a good foundation for makeup. They let every other element shine. They never compete, but they make a space feel rich, intentional, and lived in. With walls that breathe, it's time to bring in natural stone. Number 4, the most important, or one of the most important considerations is the stone that you choose for your home. I only exclusively use natural, real, for many reasons. One, it has a beautiful richness to it that cannot be duplicated. Two, I like to have real things in my home because I don't know how they're fabricated and what kind of toxins are in them. And I know guys that literally have been cutting man-made materials that now have cancer. So I don't want to bring cancerous elements into my home. So that's why I use real, such as limestones, granite. Soapstone is a really good alternative for those that are very picky with their stone, that they want to be, harder on their stones. And its beauty comes from its irregularity. I love irregular slabs. I don't even mind if there's a crack in it, to be honest, because a lot of marble has cracks in it, natural cracks, and it looks beautiful over time. So am I saying to buy cracked stone? No, but let's say it does crack, it's not the end of the world. Whereas if you have a man-made material that cracks, you have to throw it out. So natural stone has been used in architecture for millennia. Think about it, guys. Why do I keep saying think about it? I apologize. I do not want to be the person that keeps repeating the same expressions over and over again. So don't think about it. That's dead. Let's try and use subtle variations with age, like honed surfaces and patinas that add character. So to me, if you're going to pick a finish for your stone, absolutely unequivocally use honed, because it just gives it that softer feel. However, if everything is matte, I don't mind if you bring in a polished surface. You just want to have a balance. Remember, in life, you need balance, whether it's with your personal life, whether it's, the amount that you work and play. You need to have balance in your home too. I go harder on the honed finishes, but I do like to bring in a little bit of shine because you don't want everything to be dead and you don't want everything to be alive, if that makes sense. Also, you want to always use the largest slab possible. You want to minimize seams. So the first thing I always ask when picking a stone for a kitchen, what is that? I want you guys to sound off. What's the first thing you consider when putting a stone in a kitchen? How big is your island? Because then you can go look for stones. You can't look for stone unless you know how big your island is, because you cannot have a seam on your island. You cannot. If anybody argues with me differently, I will argue back. And I'm not argumentative. I really am not, I promise. The reason is you don't want to have a seam in your island. It just doesn't look good. So you just keep looking until you find a stone big enough, and there you go. Don't forget you need the edges too, so you have to add that. You want to pair your stone with warmer metals, and you want to make sure it's not cold and sterile. So warm metals that we talked about initially with these beautiful new stones is going to give you the chef's kiss. And stone, by the way, has total permanence. It's a surface that tells a story. It ages beautifully, and it communicates luxury without being flashy. And I love that. I hate being flashy, and that's why having patina and irregularities makes it less flashy. Since so many of you ask, I am wearing today my brand new A Goldie jeans. I love them. This is a size 25 for your reference. There are a few models, so we will link the exact pair in the description section, along with my top, which is from Fabrique. My shoes are Amanu, and my ring, which is so fun, is from Cézanne. Okay, number 5. This is very important, and that is your cabinetry. Let's talk cabinetry, whether closed, open, whatever it may be, whether it's paneled, unpaneled, flat, whatever you choose. There is something very important to consider when picking your cabinetry. You want to make sure that you have something that is not trendy. So getting fluted, getting beadboard. Well, beadboard I would argue is not very trendy, but certainly fluted is trendy. So you want to pick something that has been around for centuries, which is why we use flat panels all the time. So for centuries, people have been using flat, especially in mid-century homes, because it's clean, it's nice, it's balanced. But now we're using a minimal shaker. So minimal shaker has a huge impact these days, but I do love it because it's so subtle, so I can't imagine it ever going out of style. Anything that's French is also going to be, in my opinion, timeless. So pick something that has longevity. Just stay away from all the bells and whistles. Now, you always want to use soft close hardware for modern convenience without sacrificing the classic appeal. Certainly in living rooms, offices, closed cabinetry keeps sort of the electronics and all of the unsightly items out of the way. So I always love to make sure there's enough cabinetry in the home. It doesn't necessarily have to be built in. I do love not to overdo the built-ins. So if you want to be timeless and you want to think about what you want to do when it comes to your cabinetry, if you're at a complete loss, just go with a solid core slab door. That is essentially MDF. It's inexpensive, and we put it in multi-million-dollar homes because it's timeless, and then you can have fun with the hardware. The hardware is what's going to dictate the character of that cabinetry, and that's where you could go a little bit trendy, a little bit more fun, because you could always switch out your hardware with little consequence. Number 6, ceramic tiles. Okay, so ceramic tiles are made of clay, and they are very durable and beautiful. And they're deceptively simple, but its versatility and durability is what people really love and what makes it so classic. They are water resistant and easy to maintain, which is perfect for bathrooms, kitchens, if you're doing a backsplash, mud rooms certainly can use that. And it works in both minimalist and modern homes and traditional homes. So it's a great alternative to perhaps one big slab if you want to do something that's a little bit more ornate. It has a lot more character, and there are so many variations of them in the way that you glaze them, the texture that they bring, depth without feeling trendy. I am really into them lately, have been using them in a lot of my projects. And I find that they are, there's something very appealing about them, and that makes you gravitate towards them, that makes you want to touch them and love them. And they work really great as a combination with marble, which is great. So for instance, if you have leftover pieces of slab, at that point you can bring in some ceramic tile and put them together. For example, the niche of your bathroom can be slab, and then your walls can be ceramic tile. That's a really nice combo. Or your bar, which we did recently, can be ceramic tile, and then the countertop can be marble. So what's also great about ceramic tiles is that a lot of times they're handmade, the good ones. And we just did a bathroom recently with this beautiful, imperfect pink tile. And the funny thing was that the installer that doesn't work so much, a very well-known, reputable installer, hadn't been working with irregular tiles that much. And he pointed out the fact that they were irregular. And I said, that's the beauty of them. He's like, well, it's not going to be a perfect installation because they're irregular. And I said, well, that's what we're looking for. So I'm going to pop in a photo right here. It's just a photo I took on my iPhone. It's not going to be, these are not final photos that can be published. But they are just photos that I took during the process of installation. And this will give you a really good idea of why they look so beautiful, because of the fact that each tile has a different color to it, a different gradient, and it shows the imperfection of it. And by the way, when you have imperfect tiles and you happen to, they happen to weather over the years, it doesn't highlight the fact that they're older because they're imperfect to begin with. So in a way, it can last longer. Now, in terms of patterns, a lot of people ask, well, what pattern should I do? I like stacked, which is what we did in this bathroom, as you can see. It's just a little bit more modern. But I also love herringbone. As you know, my entire house, with the exception of upstairs, is herringbone. Even my bathroom flooring, which is made of marble, is herringbone. It's a very modern yet classic material pattern, I should say, without being trendy. Okay, guys, we're now getting to number 7. And finally, the foundation beneath it all. Why did I do that? I'm not sure. And that is the floors. Okay, so what flooring should we do? Well, you guys know my answer to that. But we're going to also talk about the finish. Wood. I love wood. I love wood. There was a time where I said you should only do 3/4 inch planks, which is what I have in my home, which is very, very expensive. But today's engineered floors are pretty amazing. And I'm not going to have you spend 3 times the amount just because. We're not going to live long enough for our floors to be old, unfortunately. But of course, if you're in a Parisian apartment, 200, 300, 400 years will pass and the floors will remain. In California or in most states, I have a feeling that people really demo and move on quicker. We don't build to last for more than 50 years, unfortunately. We should, but we don't, and hopefully this will change. But for that reason, you've got approximately 3 finishes, 3 sandings, 3 times that you can sand your floors typically up to 5 in an engineered floor. So in one lifetime, there's no way you're going to sand your floors 5 times. I mean, I did it once after 10 years, and I can tell you that if I do it again, it will be at least another 10 years, if not more. Probably 20 years, because it's a humongous headache, but you have to move out everything. Every item in your house has to be moved out for you to sand. Okay, so what are the tones that I am recommending so that you have a forever floor? I wish I listened to myself 10 years ago when I decided to do the gray floors, but I knew I was going to be changing them and I was okay with it, not realizing the difficulty it is to sand the floors in terms of having to move everything out of the house. And as you can imagine, a fairly large house, so many pieces, so much stuff that it is very difficult. However, what I recommend is to go with a light, medium tone. Why? It's going to darken over time. So if you want a very, 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 very dark tone, just get a medium tone and hope that it'll darken, because it does. It's graceful and it's going to darken, and it's wood. And I really like the thinner planks. I don't like wide planks because that is more country. That is more nouveau. It's a newer idea. Most herringbone or chevron or planks used to be thinner and smaller. So because I like to preserve the historic nature of my flooring, I go with a maybe ideally a 3-inch wide plank. I love 3 inches. I might go with 5, worst case scenario, but I definitely prefer to stay in the 3 to 4 inch width. Anything over that to me is just too big. It makes it difficult to transition from room to room when you have big planks. It just looks clunky and not really refined. So avoid overly large planks, avoid overly shiny polyurethane. It just reads cheap. And make sure that you don't have any orange in your floors. That's the biggest problem that I see with lots of people who hire me when they want to redo their homes. For whatever reason, there's a little bit of orange in the flooring, or the floor has turned orange. Why does that happen? Because they didn't pick white oak. White oak is white, and so you can stain it multiple colors. I would argue that you can make your floors even very dark and make them look like walnut if you have a white oak. You don't even have to put walnut to get walnut, because what if you get tired of walnut and you want to go for a light floor? Well, you will be able to. So with that said, the floor really is the foundation of the home. It sets the tone for the home. It ties everything together. It grows more beautifully over time, whether it is 3/4 inch planks, like I mentioned, or even in engineered floors. It's real wood, actually. We're not putting in faux wood, but we're doing particle wood that's mimicked to look like real wood, but it's solid and very resistant. And it doesn't expand and contract as much as a 3/4 inch floor does. So in a way, it's better for humid regions. I don't like the fake plastic wood looking floors because I just think they feel cheap to your feet. I am okay with Italian sort of ceramic tile that looks like wood in areas like laundry rooms and perhaps, in my beach house. That's what I did, because there's a lot of in and out transit. There's a lot of water. My husband thinks he's a surfer. Let's face it, he's not, but he likes to surf. So he's in and out with the surfboard or boogie board or whatever it is. So yes, it's kind of nice to do that. Now, if you guys are thinking about redoing your home, let me know which tip was most helpful, or which tip you didn't really know about, or which tip you're most enthusiastic about. I love to hear what you have to say. I read every single comment, guys. I try to respond to as many as possible, but it's me on the other side responding. So if you guys have a specific question, ask and you shall receive. And that is essentially my roundup of the 7 most important things that has to do with your home, keeping it timeless. And what can I say? I love you guys. I love connecting with you every week. I also want to mention, for those of you that are new to this channel, we also have a vlog channel. The vlog channel does all of the behind the scenes stuff. It's the stuff I really enjoy. I might even enjoy it more than the red elevator, I dare to say. Why? Because I'm just being me, having fun, and I don't have to think about topics. I just live and I share, and then you guys You guys are wonderful because I only get positive comments. I mean, it's rare that I get a negative comment. So this is a very positive channel. We have a lot of forward-thinking, smart, intelligent, empowering people that are my followers that have impact, not only on the earth, but have impact on themselves and want to live a better life and want to leave a planet better than they found it. And I'm sorry I rambled on today a lot. I have to say I was in a chatty mood, maybe because Devin's out of town and I haven't been able to talk to anybody, and my dog, well, he can't talk now. I love you guys, and I'll see you again next week on this channel, The Red Elevator.